and welcome. This is World Stories, your international reporters magazine, and I'm Sumi Sobaskada. This week, we take a look at the controversy surrounding palm oil in Colombia. We take a trip back into train history in Bangladesh, and we go cycle chic in Budapest. But first to Rwanda. Decades of strife and conflict have crippled development in the small Central African country. After the devastation of civil war and genocide in the mid-90s, Rwanda has seen marked improvements in areas like education and health. But poverty is still high, and most Rwandans live in rural areas where they don't have access to basic necessities like electricity. It's precisely in those areas that renewable energy, harnessed from the sun, wind, and water, could make important inroads. In our next story, Faridun Himani and Scott Corbin from UNTV show us how a small hydroelectric plant has had a big impact on local communities and given their children a chance at a brighter future, too.
A community celebrates in the hills of northern Rwanda. It's the second anniversary of the opening of the Mutobo hydroelectric plant that brought electricity to this remote village. Now the plant is being officially handed over to the people.
Okay, open your computers.
The pupils at the nearby Kitabura village school are taking part in the government's ambitious One Child, One Laptop program. It aims to equip them with skills that will allow them to play an active role in 21st century life. 2 years ago, using the internet to enhance lessons was a distant dream, as there was no electricity here. Headmistress Christine Musakini says the plant has transformed the school.
Since we've had electricity, the quality of education has improved. The children now have access to the internet.
Driven by water from the Mutobo River, the plant provides electricity to some 5,000 people in nearby areas. In a country where only a fraction of the population has access to electricity, it's a major breakthrough. The cost of connecting rural areas to the national grid is prohibitively expensive. Small-scale plants provide a cost-effective way of bringing clean energy to people living in those areas. The Mutobo plant is one of 4 facilities constructed in partnership with the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. Jean-Marie Modeste, a baker in the nearby village of Kabere, is among the thousands benefiting from it.
We chose to come and work here because this machine uses electricity. Without electricity, it won't work. We have high-quality flour, and it's very expensive to make the bread by hand. The electricity helps us work very fast and bake a higher quality product.
The profits from Jean-Marie's bakery are also funding the studies of her 20-year-old brother-in-law, Pascal.
I get the money from here for school fees, and I get money for buying those things, notebooks, pens, soaps, shoes.
The government's goal is to transform Rwanda from a war-torn nation to a magnet for investors. Energy and Water Minister Koletha Ruhamya says hydropower is driving development.
Where we have managed to connect electricity, where we have managed to put those mini hydros, lives of the people have changed.
The capital city, Kigali, now boasts a new road network, streetlights, and free-flowing traffic, a sign of progress. The country's economy is among the fastest growing in Africa.
You stand up.
But the country's main hopes for the future rest on pupils like these, computer-savvy youngsters who are eager to learn. They're the first generation born after the 1994 genocide, and they're learning new skills that will help equip them for success.
Well, if you live in a city, transportation plays a big role in quality of life. And here in Europe, bikes have become just as important as cars or public transit. In cities like Copenhagen and Amsterdam, people use their bikes to go just about anywhere. But for some avid cyclists, it's not just about getting around, it's also about looking good. That's the idea behind Cycle Chic, an international movement to celebrate cycling style. The concept has caught on in the Hungarian capital Budapest, where the buzz around bikes is growing. MTVA's Livia Berta has more.
In Budapest and all over Europe, many young people just finishing their studies have little trouble with the idea of riding bicycles and using public transport instead of buying cars. This is a very important fact, and we can build on it. It's essential for us to reach these people. If more citizens choose means of transportation other than cars, there'll be more space in Budapest's beautiful historic city center, and we'll be able to use public spaces for other purposes.
Cycle Chic is an international movement. It was founded by Mikael Colville Andersen in Copenhagen 3 or 4 years ago. He's coming to the show today. We want to prove you can wear anything on your bike. Cycling can be very stylish. Our core message is that you can cycle in any clothes. It's inspiring that so many people in Budapest cycle and that more are joining them all the time.
We're out to present the most stylish cyclists. They prefer clothes that go with their bikes with lots of accessories. It's their way of dressing stylishly. You can wear just about anything on a bicycle.
We entered the competition 3 hours before the deadline. I think people should dress elegantly for cycling. It's a way of fighting the misconception that if you go by bike, you'll arrive in dirty, sweaty clothes. I've ridden my bike to business meetings many times. I usually arrive 5 minutes early, and I carry a towel and a clean shirt in case I do get sweaty. But not everyone is as crazy as I am, and you don't have to cycle full speed. For me, it's my hobby.
I like to put some color into my life. I like different eras. What I wear depends on my mood. Sometimes I put on 1920s clothes, sometimes I dress up like a 70s hippie. I put different bells on my bike. Unfortunately, the green one that came with it got broken. When I dress like a hippie, I put flowers on my bike. I try to adapt it to my current style, but I can't repaint it every week.
If someone is a big bicycle fan, they usually like Cycle Chic too. Even non-cyclists like this movement. Why, I've seen people who don't ride bikes and aren't fashionistas open up to our movement. I think we can broaden their horizons.
5 years ago, there were no bikes in Budapest, and now there are, you're doing very, very well. There's some infrastructure for bikes. Other cities have more infrastructure, so this is the future for Budapest, is more bicycle infrastructure. But the advocacy, like the Hungarian Cyclists Club, is amazing. The way that they are selling cycling to regular citizens. Hungary generally is very well known for how they're getting people onto bikes. But it's a beautiful city, Budapest. Of course, it's a beautiful city, but it's not very modern because there's still traffic engineers who are planning for cars, and there has to be much more space for pedestrians and bicycles. This is what other cities are doing. They're moving forward by making space for bicycles. So that's the next step for Budapest if you want to really make an impact.
Now to a product we find in everything, from cosmetics to foods and biofuels. The magic ingredient? Palm oil. It's a versatile substance with various uses, so it's no wonder that production of palm oil has boomed in recent years. But it's a controversial product too, with major environmental and social consequences. Manuela Casper-Claridge brings us this report from one of the largest palm oil producers in the world, Colombia.
Getting around the tropical grasslands of the Orinoco Basin in Colombia is anything but easy. But that hasn't stopped biologists and agricultural experts from the Worldwide Fund for Nature carrying out their work here. The region's rich ecosystem is increasingly threatened by commercial farming. The WWF experts are documenting biodiversity in areas that they say must be protected.
We also want to locate carbon sinks and areas with large carbon stocks. The idea is to gather and combine all this information and to find out which areas should not be used for biofuel plantations.
An aerial view of the Orinoco Basin shows a huge, largely untouched aquatic ecosystem. It's home to unique plant and animal species. But in recent years, agricultural companies have increasingly been clearing land to make way for huge palm oil plantations, creating a damaging monoculture. Further north, one Colombian palm oil producer has taken a different approach. Darbon operates an eco-friendly palm oil plantation near Santa Marta. The production is only carried out on traditional farming land. No trees are felled and the ground's natural cover is left untouched.
As you can see here, the difference is that we don't clear the undergrowth. Quite the opposite. We use the natural vegetation to give the ground the chance to store moisture and thus create the conditions for optimal cultivation of the African palm.
The harvest is done by hand. The pickers are experienced and trained to pluck the palm oil fruit, which grows at a height of around 11 metres. This traditional method protects the palms. The fruit is transported by a buffalo-drawn cart. This is by no means a small plantation. It's spread over 870 hectares. But everything is produced organically.
Once you've created a perfect environmental balance, then it's also more economical because you don't need any cleaning, you don't need to buy any insecticides, pesticides, fungicides. That only works by being perfectly in sync with nature.
That sounds easy, but it's not. The production costs are significantly higher than those linked to conventional production. However, the sustainably produced palm oil does sell for a higher price. The palm fruit is processed on site using steam and pressure. Darbon wants the production to be as environmentally friendly as possible at a time when Colombia is already feeling the effects of climate change.
Like all companies dependent on the climate and affected by droughts, winter or the rainy season, we react very sensitively to climate changes. And we can already see today, we have periods of heavy rain followed by harsh droughts. It didn't used to be like that.
Darbon even uses the palm fruit husks as natural fertilizer for the soil. And they've installed a big methane gas plant to capture the greenhouse gas emitted by decaying waste and turn it into power. They also treat and reuse the water on the plantation. But some environmental activists remain opposed to palm oil production. They say stronger controls and guarantees are needed to prevent further land clearing. Others consider the Darbon plantation a model of sustainable farming. The company has left 9% of its land untouched as conservation areas for plants and animals. It says it has no plans to cut down trees to expand production. Several small farmers have switched to natural palm oil cultivation. They sell their product to Darbon. Felipe Moreno is 84 years old and the third generation in his family to farm. He grows bananas and vegetables for his own consumption, but he's stopped cultivating rice and has begun producing palm oil instead.
I lost money growing rice, and it was a lot of hard work. But now the palms are a lot easier. I cut some bunches yesterday and was able to sell them in the afternoon. I got money for it. That's a real advantage.
Irresponsible palm oil production is still damaging the environment in many areas. The WWF experts are using their expedition to the Orinoco Basin to ensure that natural land isn't unscrupulously converted into farmland. Their aim is to protect the region's biodiversity.
We believe that our studies can influence policymaking in Colombia. They provide further arguments in favor of protecting the environment and biodiversity and raise the political pressure. For instance, there's sustainable production in Orinoco, and that should continue. We're trying to foster that kind of development.
This place,
new maps have been created to indicate the conservation areas. The Orinoco Basin in southern Colombia isn't just rich in biodiversity, it also serves as a huge carbon sink. That doesn't just help boost biodiversity, it helps protect the global climate too.
A win-win situation. Well, it was 150 years ago that train travel was first inaugurated in what's now Bangladesh, and it's still a central way to get around the country. In our next story, ETV's Sakawat Liton shows us why trains have a special legacy in Bangladesh and how a museum is sharing that tradition with the country.
Railways were introduced to what is now Bangladesh by the British. But train travel has changed a lot since then. This decommissioned steam engine is nearly 80 years old. Now it's a silent witness to a bygone era. Everything to do with the railways is collected and exhibited here. It's a celebration of the railway's tradition.
The exhibits illustrate what things were like. You can get up close to the old machinery. People might ride trains all the time, but most have little idea how they actually work. The museum was established 10 years ago on the initiative of the then head of the Bangladesh Railways.
It might look like a bungalow on a hill, but this building now houses many of the exhibits. It's the only railway museum in Bangladesh. Here, the visitor can retrace the story of Bangladeshi railways from their beginnings under the British right up to the present day.
The railway museum is just outside the town of Patuli. It's quite important to us. It tells us about the history and beginnings of rail travel on the subcontinent. The local authorities should do whatever they can to inform the public about it and the historical importance of the railways and their beginnings.
The Railway Museum owns nearly 5 hectares of land in the Chittagong district. Since the museum was set up in November 2003, its curators have been salvaging items of interest from all over the country.
We're interested in every aspect of the railway's past. Anything at all, including everything related to traffic, mechanics, civil engineering and electronics and communications. We also collect old crests. Here we have one from the Assam-Bengal Railway, and of course we have one from today's Bangladesh Railway.
Every day, visitors come from far and wide to see the collection and learn about the Bangladeshi Railway, about its history and function. The museum is also popular with youngsters.
Lots of school kids and students from colleges and universities come to visit us. We've written down a lot of information so visitors can learn, and I'm also on hand to answer any questions.
We're open from 3 to 5 every day. We're really busy from Thursday to Saturday.
As the only railway museum in the country, it's of great importance for tourism.
This is a way for visitors to get a real feel for the railway's past and its subsequent development.
The current premises are very old. We might have to relocate. The local authorities could also do a lot more to promote the collection and publicize it throughout the country. That would go a long way towards securing the museum's future and getting people interested in the past.
With a bit of luck, we'll be able to go through with our plans to develop the museum. We could make a start by repairing the current building. I'd like to see it become not only one of the best in Bangladesh, but in Asia as well.
Our present is built upon our past. The museum's staff hope to continue presenting the history of Bangladesh's railway to future generations of school children and enthusiasts.
Now to Syria. The civil war there has been raging for more than 2 years, and Aleppo, the country's largest city, has found itself directly in the line of fire. Aleppo is also one of the oldest cities in the world, where a diverse array of ethnicities and people of different religions have long lived side by side. But the conflict has destroyed the ancient architecture and turned Aleppo into a war zone. In our next story, Al-An TV's Jenan Musa introduces us to one young man who's found a unique way to protest what's happened to his city by sharing his own symbol of peace.
This site was devastated by a Scud missile about 2 months ago. Artist Khalifa has come here to paint a picture in memory of the victims. Where are you going to paint it, and how long will it take?
I'm going to paint it on a wall over there. It'll take about 15 minutes.
Without further ado, he gets down to work. Khalifa is a pseudonym. His real name is Isa, Arabic for Jesus, and his mother's name is Maria. He's chosen the Virgin Mary as his motif.
Maria is a symbol of peace and compassion. Everyone who sees her image will stop to think for a few seconds. Maria will tell them to stop. Whether that person has done right or wrong, they'll stop and think for a moment.
The painting is almost finished. Khalifa has been drawing since he was little. Now he's painting in an effort to come to terms with the violence in Syria.
I can't do the face or hands, not for lack of ability, but because she evidently can't see these horrifying sights. These images of destruction and misery all over Syria and the Holy Lands. I can't paint her hands because she hasn't been able to spare the region this bloodbath.
There's one thing left to do. He flicks red ink on his work. A Virgin Mary splattered with blood is symbolic of the fate being suffered by thousands of Syrians. Some took up arms, others cameras. Isa took up the brush. It's his only weapon in this desperate struggle against the regime. Jenan Musa for Al-An in Aleppo.
Well, that's all for this week's edition of World Stories. For all of our contributing reporters and partner stations around the world, thanks for watching. To watch more episodes, head to our website. That's dw.de/World Stories. For now, we'll leave you with this week's Picks of the World. See you next time with more World Stories.